Hi, welcome to the ninth part of the Poverty and Time Use Surveys lecture, which is part of the lecture series of the Gender Economics, which is prepared for the Middlesex University, Northern Cyprus campus. In this part, we will start looking to our last article, which is very last article of the semester, actually, uh, which is basically on the designing anti-poverty policies case of Guatemala. Where is the Guatemala? It is right down Mexico. Let me also show it. Um, its place. Basically, I'll look this up. Okay. So Guatemala, you can even see here. But let's get a little closer. This here, it is part of the ancient Mayan land. In addition to the southern part of Mexico, which is also ancient Maya land of Maya. And people living in the Guatemala, they still claim they are coming from the Mayan population. And the main point of the article is designing anti-poverty programs without taking into account time poverty might have limited or even negative effects on female poverty. The main point, the main actually part of the um, the main focus of the article is the program that's called Mi Familia Progresa, My Family Progresses, improves, develops, kind of something like that. And that program is kind of an example of programs where there are cash transfers are made to the families, but they are conditional. Those conditions are usually related to children. In this case, the family, if their children is above a certain age, they need to send their children to the school. Plus, they also need to send all of their children, young or old, to the health controls, basically. And the main hope, as a first point, basically, we might think about this. We might think that the families, for the families, when they send their children to school, they have a net gain, which is a monetary gain. And uh, even if they were not necessarily considering sending their children for the school because they might think the school is not worth, the children won't get anything from the school. They don't find any employ any job anyway, and they won't be able to go to college. They will send at least their children to school to get the money, and in return, maybe the children get better skills. Um, but the main point is when a child goes to school, this might have a cost for the family. That cost is in terms of time. In most of the families, as we have seen in the previous part, work together. But same thing is also true for Guatemala. The children work inside in the family, and as bad as this could be, uh, having children not working and instead going to the school means having adult people work more. So the main question is, how can we compare the money that is given to the families to the time costs that are uh, existing as when the children go to school. Of course, the family might still. I mean, if you don't have any cash transfer, in that case, that cost might be the very reason why the family is not sending children to school. Maybe it might be impossible for the family to care for younger children or keep the basic needs of the family uh, available for the family. For that, they might need the children. And the cash transfer may reduce the cost of sending children to the school. And even if those cash transfers are not fully covering the cost of sending the children to the school, even the fact that they might be covering the partial cost of sending the children to school might help some families to send their to accept participate in the program. That's possible, of course. But the question is, how much is the payment with regard to the cost the families are facing by sending the children to school? In order to find that, we need to we are talking on two different types of cost here. One is the monetary cost, the other one is time costs. So how do we compare them? In order to compare them, we need to transform the time costs into monetary costs. So we should find monetary values of time for the families we are talking about. And when we do that, of course, we can modify the program, and we might compare how much actually sending children costs for the family, and to what extent we are covering. Are we covering the whole costs? Are we covering less of the costs? So will families be in general worse off? Assuming the school investments are not initially take off, will the families be worse off, basically? Or at least one or two of the adults will be worse off, basically, when the children are sent to school. So those are the questions. So basically, knowing this cost might help us to help the government to modify the program by knowing actually whether by being able to compare the money they pay and the cost they initiate by forcing or making the families children, basically. Well, we want to monetize the time, the labor spent. First, we need to understand, basically, what type of work is done by the family members. Well, these are type of tasks that are basically covered in the article. Domestic tasks: cleaning, cooking, washing, dishing, disposal of trash, holding water, collecting firewood, care services, caring for children, unpaid production for own consumption, farm, agricultural products, weaving, caring for domestic animals, repairing the house, purchasing goods, and making household payments, basically. Of course, the question is still what to do with. There is a question still what to do with the multitasking case. Well, multitasking is also discussed in this article, and basically, I mean, it is told that multitasking is providing a lot of information on the time pressures of the family and the exact situation the family is facing, and also the intensity of the work again. And in terms of production, we don't basically we are not able to see the total amount of product. If we assume there is no multitasking, but there is only a single activity done at that time, and well, basically one way of accounting multitasking is just ask to the person what is the most important activity you were doing at the time. Basically, that activity is taken as the main activity. Unfortunately, I mean, this is also the way in this article. I mean, it's an important omission, but multitasking is omitted also in the calculation made in this article. And basically, then we need to find both, well, this is some information on the people. Part of it can be used also to monetize them, unpaid work, but we also have overall information on how unpaid work is shared by women and men. Usually, urban women are more educated than men, and but the education level of men and women is more or less um, the same in both cases. Um, Interestingly, women study more than men on average. Probably more of them are in urban areas, but urban women are studying a little bit more than men. That's also one case, but the difference is here very significant. Um, well, urban women have higher wage, but men has uh, higher wage in both cases, both urban and the rural areas. And total household income per hour in productive and unreproductive work uh, so is, well, for urban women more than uh, rural women. For men, again, more than women in both cases. But in basically, uh, urban man case, I mean the urban man and woman case, basically, the number is much higher. Actually, this figure is interesting. It is dividing the total income, monetary income, I mean, earned by the whole family, first to the total number of hours worked by women, and then total number of hours worked by men. Um, Basically, hours of paid work by the uh, woman is much higher, basically, much well, much not much, but lower than the man. Around 1 hour, 1.5, maybe around 1 hour, basically lower. Hours of unpaid work, on the other hand, for men is much lower, as you can see, and there's around 1 hour difference between the work, the sum of all hours worked for man and woman, which is interesting because actually the when you look to total income per hour in productive and reproductive work, you see men much at much higher rate, and the difference might be in this case maybe because families with more women might be worse off. This might be the case. I don't know. Um, uh, so these are descriptive statistics. There are some questions, of course, all descriptive statistics, and here actually this part is kind of produces some questions. But let's move on. So this is distribution of paid and unpaid work for men and women. Uh, this average, this is probably the average, and there actually maybe again the percentage of people in the urban and rural areas may make the difference between, because the difference is significantly higher in this case. Well, women are spending 7.86 hours for unpaid household work. Men are spending 2.45 hours. Men are spending on average 5.36 hours of work in the market, and women in 1.86. So men work drastically more in the paid work, but well, in general, women are working more when unpaid and paid work is combined, basically, which means they are spending more hours for work at the home. Um, so, well, the main point is here, how can we calculate the monetary costs after getting all of this information? Well, we are getting close to the 15 minutes mark. So let's do this in the coming part, next part. So see you in the next part.